Okay everybody, we're going to do a quick video, and if I talk fast you might have to rewind it and watch it, but we're going to do a quick video on protein. It's my biggest issue. The biggest thing I address with people when we talk about nutrition is getting the optimal levels of protein in. And there's a lot of things I base what I think is an optimal level on that we can address in a future post. But I just want to give you a view or a picture of what it might look like, because I think some people have a hard time seeing how much protein they need to eat per meal. Okay, and it's ideal to eat 3 meals a day for most people. So you want to break your protein up. And in a very general guideline, I like to go between 30 and 40 grams per meal, closer to 40, probably 30 if you are super teeny and you don't work out much and you're just looking to maintain your lean body mass and you're not trying to lose weight. If you're trying to lose weight and you work out, I'm going to want you eating more 40 and up from there. So I'm going to kind of give you a ballpark picture of what 40-ish grams looks like. Okay, so I agree that not everybody should have to weigh and measure and enter into MyFitnessPal every single thing they put in their mouth. But sometimes it's really a good idea to measure a few times to kind of get an idea to make sure that you're eating enough. For me personally, if I don't check myself, I will go down in protein consistently. So I check it every now and again, even though I have a real good idea of what it looks like. I recommend a food scale if you can get your hands on one. They're not that expensive. I use mine all the time, not just for food, but they're great because you can put a plate on it, zero it out, measure your food on it. So if you can get your hands on a food scale, I'd recommend it. But anyway, I wanted to show you, maybe we should start with breakfast, okay? Like I had somebody say, well, I had 3 eggs, is that enough? Well, 3 eggs have about 6 grams of protein per egg, so that's only 18 grams of protein, not enough in my opinion. So people think, well, they'll add bacon or sausage, which you can do. When you eat kind of a low-carb lifestyle, you're more than free to eat bacon and sausage if you want. But what I want you to realize is you have to eat a lot of bacon and sausage because it's so high in fat. Like for instance, 2 pieces of bacon I think has 3 grams of protein in it. So to get, 20 more grams, how much bacon are you going to have to eat? Quite a bit. And you're going to get full. You're going to get full on your fat before you can get your protein in. Same with sausage. I love sausage, and sometimes I'll have some sausage with lean ham for breakfast because I love the taste of it. But even that, I think that was in 3 links is only 7 grams of protein. So we're talking, I don't know, 9 pieces maybe, 3 servings you're going to need, and that's just too much food. And so if you're going to have eggs and some meat, I would suggest something like Canadian bacon or lean deli ham without chemicals or nitrates in it. But Canadian bacon is very low in fat and high in protein. So I'll have 6 slices of this and 3 eggs, and I hit my 40 grams of protein without going way too high in fat. So keep in mind, eggs only have 6. They're a phenomenal food. You know what? And one other thing, I personally don't like egg whites mixed in, but if you take, a half a cup of egg whites or so and mix them in with your eggs, that's going to amp up the protein without the fat filling you up. So that's a good point that I forgot about. You can add egg whites to your scrambled eggs. So that's breakfast. Breakfast ideas, 40 grams of protein. I wanted to show you, obviously there's all kinds of different cuts of meat and stuff, but here's just ground beef, 8812 ground beef, and this is approximately 40 grams of protein. It's a good size patty. So just so you can see, these are like salad plates. You can kind of get an idea of what 40 grams. This is 40 grams of chicken breast. It's not a ton of meat. And if you get this first on your plate and then fill it up with veggies, you're not going to get too full to eat your protein. Again, you want to have this at each meal. So this might be lunch, and this might be dinner, and your eggs and your Canadian bacon will be breakfast, and there's your 40 grams times 3. Some ways to get it in, maybe you only have half that amount of ground beef and you want to add some cottage cheese. A half a cup of cottage cheese has 12 grams of protein. So maybe you're going to have half that burger and a half a cup of cottage cheese. So that's a good way to do it. Another good way to do it to get your protein in is yogurt. Greek yogurt, because it's lower in carbs, very high in protein, and I just go with the 0% fat just because there's still fat on my body that it can utilize, so I don't need to put it in my body necessarily from the plate. This in 1 cup has 23 grams, which is really good, but not quite high enough if that's all you're going to eat. So I would recommend like a protein powder, maybe mix in half a scoop of protein powder. Protein powders usually have about 20-ish grams per scoop. You could add a half a scoop in, mix it up really good, kind of becomes like pudding, and you've got, you know, close to your 40 grams. Or sometimes I don't want to mix it in, I'll just mix my protein powder with a little bit of water and then down that, and then eat my yogurt if I'm lacking in protein just a little bit. So you can certainly do dairy proteins. You just might need to add a little something to them to increase the protein count. I mentioned protein powder. I would recommend a whey isolate protein. As pure of a one as you can find. You want it to have 0 to maybe 1 carb per serving, with no added junk to it. This is Now brand. There's lots of really good brands out there. You just buy what you can afford. It's perfectly fine, I think, to have a protein shake for a meal replacement occasionally, but my opinion is I think we should be chewing our food. In eating, I don't think we should get too dependent on shakes, but if you want to have one for a quick breakfast or a lunch or a dinner, that's perfectly fine. Making sure you're getting your full 40 grams, so maybe 2 scoops. But I like to use protein powder to add to a meal that I have. You know, like I said, maybe I only have 3 or 4 ounces of meat or my yogurt or my cottage cheese, and I'll add the protein powder like on the side to kind of amp it up a little bit. I think that's a better way to control your insulin levels a little bit if you maybe have the protein powder with some food. Again, to have a protein smoothie occasionally is perfectly fine. I just like to lean towards eating the food versus drinking the food. So I think that's kind of what I wanted to tell you. You know, ground turkey is an option. I didn't want to open the package, but ground turkey is going to be pretty close to this. This is not white turkey, so it's got a little more fat in it. But I wanted you to just kind of see how much you need to eat at each meal. Most of us are coming from a pretty big deficit with protein. I used to eat 50 grams of protein a day, and physically was tanking. And so getting from 50 to 120, it took me several weeks to work my way up. I just slowly added a little bit more to each meal, and that's what I encourage you to do. Get yourself a scale, measure out a few times to get an idea. You know, you can Google or go to MyFitnessPal and, you know, type in chicken breast and see just how much you need to eat to hit your 40 grams. That's just a real helpful way to figure it out. So that's the lowdown on protein. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I guess that's it. So thanks.